Can India truly become equal without ending caste discrimination? That is the central question at the heart of this book, Annihilation of Caste by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. It also has a reply to Mahatma Gandhi. This book might be just 80 pages long, but it has to be one of the most interesting books that I have read. Uh, Before we start, welcome back to my channel, Book Reviews with Aditya. On this channel, I review books on topics like history, literature, culture, society, and politics. And before we get into this book, it is important to understand the person, to know more about the person who wrote this book. I can read up some parts of the introduction itself. Dr. Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar, popularly known as Babasaheb, he was a jurist, he was an economist, he was a social reformer, and he was also the principal architect of the Indian Constitution. Uh, he was someone who had faced caste discrimination personally throughout his life. He faced exclusion and humiliation because of the caste that he was born into. But in spite of the caste discrimination, and uh, the constant struggles, he uh, excelled. He excelled. He rose to earn doctorates in economics from institutes like prestigious institutes like, sorry for the mispronunciation, prestigious institutes like Columbia University and the London School of Economics. He also became a leading voice of the oppressed castes, and he helped organize several movements, such as the Mahat Satyagraha, to demand access to public water and equal civil rights for the oppressed castes. He dedicated much of his life to fight for the oppressed castes. He wanted them to live a life of dignity and equality. And while designing the constitution as well, he was the chairman of the drafting committee. He introduced the ideas of the principles of liberty, equality, fraternity, and fundamental rights, because of which millions of people in India have benefited, and we are living in a democratic country, and we are able to enjoy the fruits of democracy thanks to this man. Uh, his contribution to our country extends far beyond one single book, and millions have benefited, as I've told before, because of the rights and constitutional safeguards that our Indian constitution has. And he was the chairman of the drafting committee of our constitution. This book was originally written in 1936. It was a speech prepared for the Jat Path Todak Mandal. It was an organization which was working against caste discrimination, and the speech was ultimately not delivered at that forum, because uh, although the forum had invited Dr. Ambedkar to preside over and deliver a speech, but before that they wanted the a copy of the address. And when Dr. Ambedkar had sent it, for some reason which is detailed in the book itself, if you read it, for reasons detailed in this book, this decided not to proceed ahead with that. So Dr. Ambedkar, what he did was he published the speech, and some people might say that the speech is extremely provocative and everything, but uh, if I can venture my opinion, this was the speech that needed to be delivered, because he was someone who had faced caste discrimination. He was someone who could articulate the discrimination he had faced. He was someone uh, who had championed a lot of causes. So he had a lot to say on this issue, and it's good that he published this speech so that people like us can still read it 90 years after it was published. And while reading it, it's very clear to see that a lot of instances of caste discrimination that he has mentioned are still going on, in spite of 90 years, in spite of so many years going by, in spite of us achieving independence, in spite of us having one of the best constitutions in the entire world, perhaps the best constitution in the entire world. So the central argument of this book, if I could say, that it's very, very clear. It states that caste is not simply a division of labor; it is a system of social inequality where the dominant castes can oppress the other castes, and basically this social system of social inequality is based on birth. The system of caste is based on birth, and that inequality needs to be dismantled. And so one thing is that different occupations are very normal in any society, but if you are assigned an occupation just because you are born into a caste and you have no say, especially if you're born in an oppressed caste, you are assigned an occupation, you're forced into a profession and not given any the kind of education, the kind of awareness that is required to get the to get ahead in life, to do what you want to do. So that is actually a very oppressive system. Dr. Ambedkar has argued that caste creates a hierarchy in which people are not simply different from one another. They are placed at different levels of social status, and people who are at the upper levels of social status can exploit those below them. And once this hierarchy becomes deeply embedded in our society, it can affect almost every aspect of our life. So that is the central argument, and it affects something like who you will marry, it affects who you will eat with, it affects what occupation, the kind of education you will get. First of all, if you will get an education or not. Second, the kind of education you will get. Third, the kind of privilege that you have, whether you are considered socially equal to other people or not. And what this is Dr. Ambedkar's main criticism of caste, and to be honest, it is actually very valid. And he's not simply asking people to be kinder to one another or something, and he's not just asking ki let's all be kind and everything, and that's how the discrimination will end. He is questioning that whether a society can be equal if there is such a social hierarchy which is so entrenched in our society, even in the 21st century, even in today's times. And agreed that India has changed enormously since 1936. We've got independence, we've developed a lot, we are one of the biggest economies in the world, we have a very democratic constitution, we have laws against discrimination and untouchability. Many people from communities who had historically faced caste oppression have been able to achieve extraordinary success in different fields, whether it be education, sports, politics, you name it. They have achieved a lot of success. But in spite of that, it does not mean that caste discrimination has disappeared. Even today, caste can influence a lot of things like marriage, relationships, access to opportunities, access to wealth, and how people are treated. Dr. Ambedkar was an advocate of inter-caste marriages, and this is something that should happen. Actually, I don't know why people are still so entrenched in their castes, and caste-based discrimination and while caste-based violence instances of that continue to be reported throughout India. You don't need to believe me. You can just go read the newspaper, read the latest news, and you'll find instances of that everywhere. And even if you and there are instances which may not be reported in the news, but if you go to the villages of our country, if you go to the every single corner of our country, if you speak to social reformers, if you speak to social workers, you'll see it around yourself. You will see that. And even today, many families, they prefer marriages strongly within their own caste and community. I don't know why. And inter-caste marriages, they might have increased. I mean, I don't have a statistic to prove that here they have increased or decreased, but that does not mean that it has become like a huge proportion. It is still relatively a smaller proportion of the total marriages in our country. And it is important because Dr. Ambedkar, he had believed in things like social integration, and that it required simply more than sharing public spaces. He saw intercaste marriage as one of the ways of breaking down the entrenched social boundaries in our country. And his reasoning was actually very interesting. His reasoning was that if people from different communities form families, the boundaries between those communities can come down, they can become less rigid, and you begin to see people from another caste or from another community not just as people of that community, but as relatives, as friends, as fellow citizens. So if I talk about this book, this has three parts. The book basically has three parts. If I can, I'll just show it to you. It is divided into three parts. First part, the main part is the speech that is prepared by Dr. Ambedkar. Before that, there's a prologue explaining why he had written the speech, the context of it, and after that, it also publishes a reply reply that Mahatma Gandhi had to Dr. Ambedkar's speech, and the reply and a reply of Mahatma's speech by Dr. Ambedkar. So this is actually very, very interesting, because both men, they acknowledge the achievements of each other, but they also criticize each other wherever they feel they are uh, perhaps not completely right, which is a good thing actually, because you get to read so many different perspectives, and that's a sign of a very healthy democracy. And if I say that for Dr. Ambedkar, if I'm talking about democracy, for Dr. Ambedkar, democracy is not simply about voting. It's not simply about having a constitution. It also requires people to recognize one another as equals. And if I believe, suppose for example, if I believe that someone is inherently inferior because of the caste that that person is born into, then politically inequality cannot solve that problem. Social reforms are necessary. There has to be social equality before that can lead to political equality. There has to be social equality, social reforms, an ending of social discrimination, and that is the idea where annihilating of caste, basically removing caste from Indian society, can actually be understood as something positive for everyone. And if we can imagine in India where every child's opportunities is not influenced by their caste identity, or if we can imagine in India where we are choosing friends without thinking about caste, or choosing a spouse without families worrying about the caste status or economic status, because a lot of families still discriminate based on caste. I mean, a lot of them want to intermarry within their caste itself. I mean, I don't understand why. So imagine that we have professional relations. It's not that these things are not happening. These things are happening. There are people who don't discriminate based on caste, but there are a lot of people who still do, even after 90 years of the speech being made. So it's just something that all of us as Indians, me included, need to address. So that's pretty much it about this book. I would strongly recommend every Indian to read this book, whether you agree with everything that's written in the book or not, uh, whether you may find some ideas to be provocative or not. Because if I would say that Dr. Ambedkar is basically exposing how the caste system is dehumanizing not just the oppressed but also the dominant privileged people, and it is arguing that true social reform can only come across with the total discrimination of caste, total destruction of caste system in India. It is not just an critique of the orthodoxy in our country, but it is also a call to action. um, it's a demand that reason replace superstition and justice replace hierarchy. So I would suggest that everyone should read this book again. Uh, Annihilation of Caste. It's not a very long book. It's just like, if I see it, it's just 85 pages. But reading the speech itself, it will leave you conflicted. It will leave you uneasy with yourself. It will leave you not being able to digest some ideas or having a hard time. But trust me, once you read this book, you'll understand why this should be read. So that's it. If you like my channel, if you like my work, do subscribe to my channel, Book Reviews by Aditya. I review books, as I've said before. I review books on multiple topics like history, politics, caste, society, culture and literature. Do share this review with someone if you like this review, and if you want to read more, listen to more such book reviews on these subjects, do subscribe to my channel, Book Reviews by Aditya. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next review. Thank you.